we have slipped.
So, dear friend, it's really a relief to start this series of interviews with you. And as you know and you understood, this channel will be mainly about sound and music and sound gear. So, could you explain the audience how you recorded your album and how it gets, how did you record?
I basically used this.
You prepared it, okay.
No, that's what I'm using for the sound.
Okay.
Including for the sound of this interview. Yeah, so the device I used is a Japanese multi-track recorder, which is the Zoom R8. So this is what it looks like. Well, it's obviously upside down right now, so
it's okay. I think the followers will be able to, and I put a link down below in the description. Yeah. So this is a controversial subject between us because if I tell you not to use a Zoom on a sound engineer point of view, it's like if you tell me, as you are a translator in your daily work, it's like if you are telling me not to use Google Trad. It's practical, and but we know each other where this kind of tools reach their limits. So why did you decide to use this?
I guess I've never been much of a technician, as you know. I liked the very hands-on approach of the R8. It's pretty straightforward. There are not a lot of buttons and settings and stuff you need to think of. It's pretty intuitive. There's a very clever mix of digital and analog, I think. There are some buttons to activate and use, but not too many. I think it's exactly the right balance. And I've been able to use it very quickly. I remember when I received it, almost as a test, I recorded a series of covers of Henry Purcell, the British
composer. I remember, yeah. Great.
It was, kind of a way to implement something I had been thinking of for months, maybe years, but also an experimenting ground for trying to, trial and error this R8. I think it's also rooted in my personal perception of music recording. I mean, when I started home recording songs at the age of 16-ish, I used tape recorders, 3 different ones, which I found in various places in my parents' place, which was my place at the time. And so on tape recorder 1, I would record the drums and then play that, and at the same time record the bass on a second tape recorder.
Okay.
And then I would try to synchronize the first 2 tape recorders while using a third one, and I would play the guitar and sing. So, at the time I didn't even know what DIY or multi-track or, all that jazz. I didn't know what that meant. I followed my instinct, and obviously the synchronization of it was super random, super hard, after a while, because I mean, in theory, tapes are supposed to turn at the same rate, but in reality, it doesn't happen this way. So there was always some sort of offset which kept growing as the song went, and which was, you know, kind of a pleasant factor. I could have used this even more, because years later I discovered the work of Juana Molina, you know, who she's a Spanish musician, and she uses this offset as part of her music. She uses several loopers, and you know, the fact that they're not synchronized is an element of her music. As far as I was concerned, I think at the time, and probably still now, my obsession was this, you know, songwriting, the writing of songs, literally. So, you know, of course, there's a little charm to this kind of do-it-yourself thing, but my aim was, you know, recording the song, getting it done, writing this, and you know, within the boundaries of my abilities and capacities, try to obtain a result out of it, an outcome. And I guess this has never changed, really. I mean, the R8 is just an enhanced version of my 3 tape recorders of the time, I think.
It appears to be, but do you feel like the studio environment prevent you from doing something, or kills some intention you have from the start, or depends?
I wouldn't say this. I wouldn't say it that way. It's a different experience where time has much more impact. The time of the recording, the moment, you have to seize the moment, and sometimes you have to fake it, because a studio is expensive, and you know, you're not supposed to, you're not the Beach Boys, basically. You're not supposed to spend hours on one take. So my first experience of a studio ever was with you in the south of France for a teaser for Matter, and before that it was only DIY, you know, with friends, home recordings, and that was the first proper studio recording experience as such.
Well, to be honest, something like some sort of enhanced home studio, but yeah, I think, yeah, that was my role at the time, to make things accessible and clear, and to serve the artistic point of view you had in mind. So, but this kind of connection is difficult to find, and is gives headaches to a lot of artists. So, okay, and so as we have been talking about the this sound that the Zoom has, that has something like metallic when it comes to the high hand and high meats. So, can you talk to us about the guy who made the mastering? That was a key process to get something warmer and enhanced also.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Zooms, I should say, all have this kind of cold, slightly frustrating treble sound to them, and the mixing of the album was made by my friend Flavien at home as well. He used his own tools, mostly freeware. So, you know, I mean, we were satisfied with it, but obviously we needed to have some warmth added to it through mastering. And so we called a guy called Carim Clasmann. Carim was, and still is, the one of the members of PSAP, a British band, which is a brilliant band. In terms of songwriting, but also in terms of sound. And incidentally, he is the composer of the soundtrack of Grey's Anatomy.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
Which I suppose, you know, is a fairly reasonable source of income for him and allows him to do other stuff like mastering my record, of all possibilities.
For a decent price, as I understood, and
absolutely.
Which matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, sure.
We'd already worked with him with my other band, Lying in Bed, and he'd already mastered our first record. So it was only natural, because I really loved what he did with that other album. And I think he did excellent work for this one, because it's exactly what he did. He brought some, warmth is really the only word I can think of to this recording, through his mastering skills and gear, probably.
And respecting the overall intention, because mastering for the last 20 years, in my opinion, as we already discussed, is all about storming the gates and pushing the level, and you lose some part of the artistic intention, sound engineer, recording as intent to be. But that was also some enhancement to be found, and as far as I can tell, for the few email that we have exchanged, he sounded to me like very professional.
Absolutely, and very sensible and very sensitive to the same things as us, So all his advice were always very insightful, because I think he understands music the same way as we do.
Which when we need to find a language to share and to communicate in the interest of music. So maybe not my last question, but one of the question I wanted to maybe caught you off guard a little is that will be a question I want to ask to many people, but I hope that the surprise will remain, is, as far as you can remember, as far as you can tell, what is your first memory, your first recollection linked to music? When you were a child, or?
I guess a mix of the songs that my parents would listen to in the car, particularly when we were traveling to my grandparents or a holiday, and they would make tapes. My mother, I guess, would make tapes while listening to the radio. So it was a collection of sometimes poorly cut hits of the moment and oldies. I guess that would be, this blend of pop songs, French pop songs from the late 70s, early 80s, and I guess my first trauma in terms of a real, sound recollection and music recollection is Ennio Morricone, because in my parents' vinyl collection, there happened to be one vinyl of Once Upon a Time in the West. And I remember very clearly listening to that particular vinyl and thinking, that's an important thing, that's important stuff. It's not like, the rest of what they had been listening to. It's not as light, there's something to it. And I knew there was a weight in this music.
So without even knowing, of course, and predicting the future, they were preparing you to listen to broadcast.
Sure, they were laying the ground for broadcast.
And post-rock and a lot of stuff. Okay.
Sure.
And when was the moment where you had this feeling that music really is the thing that matters in your life, that you want to do something about it as a musician? Or
when I would say when we started recording stuff and composing stuff with my cousin Francis, I mean, I was already pretty much into music, but he was a guide, you know. He was a guiding light for jazz and for the mere fact that it was possible to compose something. And, you know, the first sort of band that I ever created was with him. And I really followed his lead. So, yeah, I guess, you know, this desire was really born out of this relationship we had and somehow still have, even though, you know, the life. But yeah, I would say that this particular relationship, so I guess the and between Francis and I was where this was born, I would say.
Okay, so thank you very much, and I wish that your album will, despite of the context we're in, I wish that your album will meet great success in the UK. Do you know where it is released? We will put the links in description about how to order it for the English audience.
Yeah. Well, Paddy Forward, the guy we work with in London, decided to postpone the release to March because basically, you know, Brexit, COVID-19, whatever, everything is being postponed these days. So yeah, he decided it was more sensible to release it in March. So yeah, hopefully that's going to hold. And we may, at the same time as this British release, we may take the opportunity and also release a digital version of one of the songs off the album, which is entitled 15 Ways to Leave Mark E. Smith, with some remixes by some friends. So yeah, March.
Among them, you told me that there is Yoni from Y. That's yeah.
Fingers crossed. He accepted on paper, so he should be part of the team of remixers. Yes, and you know, the incredible thing about this recent exchange we've had is that he ended up telling me that he really loved Glover's Mistake. He thought it was a great piece of work, and particularly the work on arrangement and woodwinds. And he said, you know, one of these days I'd like to collaborate. I'd like to write something, and then you would produce it. And the you know, the fact that he used the verb produce instead of arrange or something like that, that felt so surreal. I mean, Yoni Wolf, you know, one of the greatest fucking composers of his time, and in terms of sound, you know, Y is just a fantastic band. So I'm not exactly sure what he expects from me, but I'm flattered, to say the least.
Great. So thank you for being with us, and this is thank you very much, and everyone, thanks for watching, and we will see you all very soon. Bye bye.